Ever since I was little, I've always been inspired by great communicators. People who are able to articulate their ideas, their language is precise, they're able to just influence a large group of people. And I've always thought that they had this secret sauce, that they were just magnetic personalities, maybe they were just highly extroverted people, or they just knew the right techniques or skills that they needed to be able to connect with others on a deeper level. And I think most people, including myself, feel like that we're kind of boring. And I used to feel that I really didn't have anything interesting to say. I felt like in order to be magnetic or charismatic, I had to live an interesting life, that I needed to have these stories that I needed to be able to share, that I needed to be witty or funny in every single interaction. And I quickly realized, well, it wasn't until I started working as an occupational therapist, where I have spent the past 6 years talking with people and being in conversations on a daily basis, that I started to realize that the more you try to be interesting, the less people actually connect with you. And I noticed that the deeper the relationships I had with people, it was always when I made them the most special person in the room. I shifted all of my attention onto this person and started to understand them on a deeper level. And so in today's video, I want to share with you 5, maybe 6 strategies that I have learned to deeply connect with other people that will naturally make you feel a lot more likable, a lot more understandable, and will make people naturally want to gravitate towards you. And so the first misconception that people really get stuck with conversations is that they think it's about them. And this is what really traps people, is that they're constantly thinking that they need to impress. And so what happens is that they go into the conversation with a frame of wanting to perform. So they're constantly thinking of, what should I say next? How do I look to this person? Am I dressed really nice? Am I sweating? And so what's happening in that moment is that all of your attention is focused on you, because you think the conversation is about you. And quite naturally, you get anxious, you get nervous, and this starts to show up in your body language. And human beings are remarkable creatures. We have this ability to sense this body language, because quite naturally, whatever we're feeling on the inside often shows in our body language, and 65% of our communication is done through our body language. So we're able to notice how we're feeling depending on how we're showing up. And so a powerful frame that's actually helped me, because I used to be this type of person. I used to be anxious with what I was wanting to say and how was I being perceived, is to shift the entire conversation on them. Make them the most important person in the conversation, because they are. You want to attack the conversation from a lens of finding out common ground with this person. And as soon as you start to begin to go from the frame of I need to be important towards they're the most important, that's when you start to begin to truly understand them. And the way that you can do this is to go into the conversation with a curious mindset. Curiosity in conversation is your super. What happened there? I think I just got cut out. Yeah, sorry about that. My whole screen went off. Don't know what happened. But curiosity is the greatest superpower that you can have in a conversation, because it instantly frames them as the most important person. You're actually curious about this person's existence. You're curious about why they answered a certain way, or why they used particular words, or why they feel what they feel. And so when you approach conversation with the lens of curiosity, you're naturally a lot more open. The focus has shifted from yourself towards this other person. And quite naturally, you're going to ask more interesting questions because you're going to have a genuine interest in what they're saying. So if they come out and they say something that they have recently been playing tennis as of late, if you're genuinely curious about that statement and you think, okay, why does this person play tennis? How long have they been playing tennis for? Is tennis one of their favorite sports? What inspired them to play tennis? Do they have a favorite tennis star? Automatically, when you're curious, you naturally ask really interesting questions. And when you ask someone good questions, thoughtful questions, they think of you and think, wow, I've probably never been asked that before. It shows that you're taking a genuine interest into them. And when someone feels like you're interested in them, they naturally drop their guards. And that takes me towards the next critical strategy that I want you to prepare for, is that we often enter conversations with our preconceived judgments. And we all have this. We naturally walk down the street, and if we see someone who's a little bit overweight, we might preemptively judge them. If we see someone who's got blue or green hair, we might think, oh, this person's a little bit eccentric or a little bit weird. And so when you enter a conversation with someone holding preconceived judgments, you've typically made up an opinion about them. And so you want to learn to leave your judgments at the door. Enter every conversation with a neutral perspective, regardless if you feel like you'll connect or not with the person. Because if you're going into a conversation and you're already judging the person, subconsciously you're going to give off that energy. You're going to give off a body language that shows that you're not interested in this person. And they're going to feel that vibe from you, and they're going to be less reluctant to want to share anything that they feel is particularly important to them. The next and the most important point where I see a lot of people get wrong, and it really what kills relationships, it kills any meaningful connection that you have with someone, is that you struggle to emotionally validate what the other person has said. Now, conversations can go in a variety of different ways. You can talk about your hobbies, your interests, but sometimes, and I would say most of the times actually, is that we often say something that holds an emotional weight towards it. Someone can probably say that they've been having a really hard time at work lately, or maybe they're struggling with their kids, or maybe that they're having a bit of a spat with their partner. And these are quite emotionally charged conversations. And quite often, what most people do is that they spurt out and rush to say something about their experience, hoping or thinking that maybe the other person is going to relate with that because they're saying a shared experience. And it makes sense, right? It makes sense to want to share something about yourself that maybe they can relate to. But it shows that you're actually failing to connect with what that person said. And so something that I would like for you to try on your next conversation is to emotionally validate what they've said. So if someone has mentioned that they're struggling with a partner or they're struggling with their work, have a quick sentence that goes, wow, it actually sounds like that's probably something really difficult for you right now. That must be really tough going through those experiences at work. Validate what they say first and then add towards your conversation. Give your experience. That's going to show them that you're actually listening to what they have to say and that they feel seen and understood. And that's going to instantly develop that connection with them. So that was really a big thing that I noticed that I was doing, that it wasn't until I became an occupational therapist that I realized that I wasn't emotionally validating people's experience. And then the last point, I don't know how far we're in now, but the last point is to always end the conversation on a positive note. As humans, we just want to feel like we're valued, like we're appreciated. And so if you can always end the interaction on a positive note and tell the person how much you've actually enjoyed having a conversation with them, or that it was a pleasure to meet them, or you give them a very sincere compliment about what clothes they're wearing or what shoes they're wearing, or the attitude that they brought up, you're going to leave that interaction with an amazing last impression. And so last impressions are very important because that's the last thing that they're going to remember about you. So try to come into every conversation with an attitude that you're going to leave it better than where it was. You're going to make that conversation and that person feel better than what they were previously talking to you. And so that other person that you're talking to is going to leave that conversation and actually feel really good about being within your presence. That just purely by talking to you could have potentially been the highlight moment of their day. And so the next time that they see you, they remember the way that you made them felt. And so if you want to be a memorable communicator, you want to be someone who people naturally want to be around, it's always about making the other person the most important person. And you'll be amazed at how much better your relationships would be, your friendships, your everyday interactions with people would be when you just make them the most important person in the room. I hope you got something out of that. And yeah, that's all. See you in the next one.